Okay, very good. So what I'm going to do is I'll make me the presenter.
Uh-huh.
So then you can see my screen.
Okay. Was my presenter no longer the presenter?
So there should be a little box in the middle here that says DCMC report generation.
Yes, exactly.
Okay, very good.
It's a busy screen, isn't it?
I'm sorry?
It's a busy screen. You have a black screen, and then you have a dark black window, and then you have this box.
Yeah, actually what this is, I'll close this for a moment.
Okay.
What this is this is a Windows 7 machine that's running in a virtual, on a virtual machine. So this is Windows 7.
Okay.
But I actually run it on my Mac as a virtual machine.
Okay.
So if I was to, since you can see my entire screen,
yeah.
If I went over to my Mac, you would see my email.
Okay.
But over here is my virtual machine, so this is just a Windows 7 virtual machine.
Okay, I can see
that we have the product installed on.
Okay.
So this is, we actually have the product installed on this particular virtual machine, so I can show this to you. I'm not going to bore you right now with all the different details, but what I want to do to make this run quickly is I'm going to give it a couple of filters here,
okay,
just so you can see what it does. But what this will do is it takes the customer's data and it will dynamically draw the Visio right in front of their eyes.
Okay.
So I'll show this to you. So this will actually fire up Visio.
Yeah. When you say customer data, what kind of data? It's coming from like SMF kind of thing?
Well, similar. It's their network conversation data. We actually have the appliance that captures this data and it puts it into this model that we then build the interrelationships with. Okay. So you can see this thing is building, 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 and when it's done here in just a few seconds, it will actually draw the Visio for you. There, it drew it for you.
Mm. And the Visio will be basically the applications or the servers, or let's wait and see. Okay.
Yeah, in this case, this is the servers that are starting from this server.
Okay.
So HBG SQLRS1 is the core server.
The one
and what you'll notice, I'm sorry?
The one in the middle. Okay, now because it was too small to read, now you blew it a little bit, so it's readable now.
So it's a little bit easier to read now, hopefully. But it's just, in this case now we give them the Visio, but all of the interrelationships have been drawn for them automatically. So in this case, HBG SQLRS1 is the core server.
Okay.
It's talking to HBG SQL ITS2 right here. So this is actually coming from real customer data where we have taken the traffic between this server and this server, and we've kept track of it, and we've noticed that it's a very, very heavy amount of workload, so it's a heavy green line.
Okay.
The heavy blue lines are even more workload.
Okay.
Oh, actually, no, sorry. They're actually less workload. And then see how we have a light red line right here?
Yes.
That's a light workload. So there's an actual legend I can show you at some point when you want to get into this a little bit more, and we can describe these details.
Okay.
So let me close this down, and I'll show you something else.
So
keep in mind that this
displays the traffic between these two servers.
Well, in this server and this server, and it shows you who's connected to who.
Okay.
So HVG SQLRS1 is connected to this server. It's connected to this server.
Okay.
It's connected to this server. See the lines that are coming in from it?
Yeah, yeah.
And then we trace the relationship. So this server is connected to this server, but this server we see a relationship to this server over here.
Mm.
And this server, we see a relationship to this server.
But the customer has
And so
no
on
way
and
to,
so on and so on.
the customer doesn't have
Yep.
what you're presenting is something that the customer doesn't have online like this, but then it'll take a very long time to basically figure out from different systems and on different servers.
Exactly. There are other solutions out there that are very, very expensive.
Yeah.
That don't provide the level of detail that we provide.
Mm-hmm.
For example, IBM has a product called TADM.
Okay.
I'm not sure if you've heard of TADM. It's the Tivoli Application Dependency and Discovery Manager.
Okay.
It will draw interrelationships like this, but again, it's very, very expensive. It's a very intrusive installation because you have to go and put agents on all your servers. It doesn't translate behind firewalls. There's a whole bunch of things it doesn't do that we do. So our solution is much less expensive and provides more functionality. And just to let you know, we have a 1-year subscription service right now at Royal Caribbean Cruise Lines where we're moving their data center from Florida up to Virginia. Okay. They are paying $1 million a year for this service.
Wow.
$1 million.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So it's quite fascinating what we can do. So again, keep in mind that this is SQLR S1, okay?
Okay.
What I'm going to do is I'm going to shut this down and I'm going to draw a different visual for you.
Okay.
So let's get back into this.
Yeah.
And now I'm going to draw this for SQLRS2. So SQLRS2 will be in the center.
Mm-hmm.
Again, 3 levels, and I'm not going to keep the output. So hang on a second. We'll see that draw right in front of our eyes. Now, doing this demo is very powerful for the customer to see.
Uh-huh. Question, Brad. These servers can some of them can be Windows, some of them can be Unix. The operating.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Absolutely. In fact, that's the beauty of this is we will actually map out who is a Windows server, who is a Solaris server, who's AIX, who's HPUX, all of these kinds of things.
Hmm. And basically your appliance sits on the network and listens to what's going on. It doesn't intrude.
That's correct.
Okay.
Exactly. What we do is we hook into a network thing called the spam port.
Okay.
So it's a duplicate set of information, and I'll send a PowerPoint to you on this, and we can go through this again with a GoToMeeting. It'll make more sense. Mm-hmm. But see, now what we've done is we've drawn a different visual.
Okay.
And I'll zoom in here a little bit more. But now what we have is a different set of core servers. So every one of these big servers is what we call a core.
Okay.
Now, where did this core come from? Right? So these 4 servers appear to be the core servers. Yeah. So if I zoom out a little bit, you can see the entire visual a little bit better. But these 4 servers are the core of what we fed into the analysis product. Okay? So let me start over again so I can walk you through this. I think you're going to really like this. So what we have here is, in this case, we have an application called development.
Okay.
So now I'm going to remove the server. I'm not drawing the core from a server. I'm drawing the core from an application.
Okay.
Okay, so now if I hit enter, every server who is identified as being in the development application will be drawn as the core, and we will trace all the interrelationships from that core. So hang on. You'll see this draw.
So this is an application view.
This is a visualization of the application interrelationships.
Okay.
And we have database views, we have application views, we have migration group views, because we do it mostly for migrations. But other people can use it as, I want to move this application to the cloud. Show me everybody that it talks to, so I can make sure that I can count up the amount of network bandwidth I'm going to need.
Okay.
So if I moved these 4 servers to the cloud, all of this workload, this black line, this red line, all of these connections would have to be accounted for with the network bandwidth. If these 4 servers were moved to the cloud, they're still talking to all of these servers that are still back here in the data center.
Okay.
So how much network load am I going to need?
Okay. So
it's quite fascinating.
Yeah,
it's fascinating.
It looks really impressive. So let me understand this now. When a customer says, I want to build my private cloud, okay?
Yes.
And, he can still have a private cloud and data center servers. So
Absolutely.
He can cloudize part of his operation, but still he can still have some server farms here and there that are not part of the cloud. Is this a true statement?
Yeah, absolutely. You can have some workloads you move to the cloud, and you may move some of those to the Amazon cloud. You may move some others to the Microsoft cloud. You may have other workloads that you keep back in your data center. But for you to understand those workloads, this is very powerful, so you move the right thing to the cloud. Can I show you a PowerPoint real quick?
Yes, please. Please, this is really interesting.
Okay. This is the PowerPoint that I sent you, but it might be better if we actually walk through this.
Yeah, because there was something called heat maps and stuff like that, right?
Yes, and that is another way of viewing these workloads.
This is really nice.
So here's I have many sorry?
No, I mean, it's nice that you're developing the appliance and writing the code, because it means that you have full control on the thing, you know. So if a customer has a certain specific requirement, we can do this and accommodate his requirements, as opposed to the big shots and the big players. They're expensive and they're not flexible as well.
Exactly. Yeah, we're very, very excited about this, because this is our product. We've developed it to move data centers. But we have found that customers want to keep this for their day-to-day operational process, or moving to the cloud, or I want to know that I've got all these critical servers backed up, or whatever their operational need is. Just because we developed this to move data centers doesn't mean the customer's limited to only using it to move data centers. Our customers are actually very smart. When they see this, they start thinking of all the different ways they can use this in their daily lives.
Absolutely.
Whether, I mean, they may be migrating from Solaris to AIX, or they may be migrating to VMware, or they may be migrating to the cloud, or whatever it is. They find this to be very valuable information.
It's a data transformation tool. What a data center transformation tool, in the sense that if you want to transform your data center from state A to state B, this is the valuable tool to do that. And A and B, it's up to you.
Exactly. So we find that because data centers are very fluid, doing those kinds of interrelationships manually means they'll never be accurate. They're always going to be out of date. You take a lot of people to go and draw those, but we can do it all programmatically. We can create thousands and thousands and thousands of these visuals in a moment's notice. So let me show you just a little bit here of, and I don't know if I sent this to you yet or not, but we may have this series of applications and we want to see the interrelationships, right? So we can actually map through the interrelationships, like the dev application I showed you a little bit ago. But what we have here is, maybe this is your infrastructure. You have the internet, you've got firewall, you've got business layers, you've got actual servers, and you've got SAN maybe. So notice we've got AIX, we've got Windows, we could have HPUX, we could even have a mainframe over here if we like. If we want to understand the purple application, we can actually trace those interrelationships through the entire infrastructure. We can show them everything about that application. So the way we do this is, I was telling you about the core. So we have this thing called layers.
Okay.
So we start with something that maybe the customer gives us, you know, in my environment, I know that these 3 servers are part of a core application. Okay. And what we do is we draw the lines in between the servers based on the workloads that we're seeing. So this is a network workload. Right now we're seeing more than 20 terabytes of workload between these 2 servers, because that's a heavy red line.
Okay.
And the heavy red line is the 20 plus terabytes. Between these 2 servers we're seeing 2 plus terabytes, because it's the heavy blue line. So between 2 and 5 terabytes. And between these servers we're seeing between 5 and 20 terabytes, because it's a heavy red line.
Yeah.
So what we do is we start from the core. They can either tell us that these are the 3 servers we want for the core, or we can discover them on our own. We have an ability to map their entire environment if they like. But those servers, these 3 servers, are talking to other servers.
Yeah.
So this layer 0 core is talking to what we call layer 1. And then layer 1 is talking to layer 2. And layer 2 is talking to layer 3. So let me show you how this works. This will draw the layers out for you. So layer 0 is talking to layer 1. Layer 1 is talking to layer 2. Layer 2 is talking to layer 3.
Okay.
But you'll notice that these servers have a very heavy workload with this server, layer 1 server. So the 3 servers they told us about have a heavy tie to this server. But this server has a very light black line between it and this layer 2 server. So this is a possible breakpoint. You may want to move these 4 servers to the cloud. And then we would have a very small amount of workload between this server and this server. This server and these 2 servers could remain in your data center, and you wouldn't have a lot of performance impact. So understanding the workloads and the size of the workload is very important, and I'll show you this here in a little bit. So we actually sit on the network. We tap into the span port.
Okay.
That span port is capturing traffic information. So that's all over here from the network.
So what's a spam
We
port?
also a span port is it's a side port on any of the core switches these days. They have ports that actually support the server workload, but then they have some management ports.
Okay.
And one of the management ports, in fact, some of the servers actually have more than one span port. Some of the Cisco's these days have multiple span ports.
Okay.
And so we actually direct that span port to our appliance. So we see all of the traffic across the entire switch.
Okay.
For example, at Royal Caribbean right now, they have about 45 ships at sea at any given point in time. I don't know if you've ever been on a cruise.
I've never been. I just talking to my wife the other day about a cruise, you know, but I never knew that they have 45 ships.
They have 45 ships. They have cruises going on in the Mediterranean. They have cruises going on in Hawaii. They have them going on in the Caribbean. They have them going on in Africa. At any point in time, they have ships out there.
Okay.
So the Miami data center that we're moving is talking to the ships.
Okay.
So what portion of the ship are we talking to? So when we move the application from Miami up to Virginia, we want to make sure that we get all of those connections updated to talk to the ship.
Okay.
So there's a lot of reasons why people want to understand those interrelationships.
Interesting.
We also, because we're seeing every piece of traffic, if somebody is in Saudi Arabia and they get onto the Royal Caribbean website and they book a cruise, we see that. We see that traffic.
Okay.
If somebody's in Germany and they get online to book a cruise, we see that traffic as well. So we see every IP conversation that their entire environment is supporting.
Okay.
We have complete information about everything they have.
Okay.
So I'll skip through some of this here a little bit, and I'll send you more of this here later. But essentially, I want to get a mishmash of interrelationships down to something that's usable, which is over here.
Whoa, this is a busy chart.
Something that makes sense.
Yeah.
So let me show you this one last thing here, because you were talking about hotspots. But I can, if I do an application-to-application view, I can see every application that talks to every application in their environment. And this is a Visio. So I can actually, like I did before, I can actually take one of these blue boxes and I can drag it over. So if I wanted to move this web application to the cloud, I would then be able to see all the connections this web application has right now.
Okay.
If I drilled into the web application, I would see all the servers, all the storage, everything about that web application I would see because we're tracking all of that information.
Interesting.
So it's actually quite fascinating. But this is a sample visual of, in this case, a core banking application. In this case, what we had was a couple of servers. This was actually an application at Royal Caribbean, and we were showing them this network load, and they saw this red line, and they're like, "What in the world is all of this red activity?" Right? So we showed them this red activity is this test Amos REP01. What that was a test replication workload.
Okay.
They had no idea that this replication workload was still running. They thought they had turned it off 3 months ago.
Wow. So
we found this workload was still running. They went back out and they turned it off, and then we moved it to the new data center. If we had not found this, if we had moved it to the new data center, we would have brought production to its knees.
Absolutely.
Because it was so much workload they were not expecting. So if I go back here a little bit, what we find usually are unexpected servers. So usually they can give us a core, but when we track the interrelationships, we find surprises. We find this unexpected server. And usually they're like, why is this server talking to this server? Usually we find something they didn't know.
Oh yeah, definitely. I mean, when you have hundreds of servers with hundreds of applications, you're bound to fall into some of these.
That's right. But I can then give them immediate visualization into their workloads if our appliances are in there and running. So this was what the workload looked like on March 4th, 2003. But you may want to know, what does it look like right now, July 23rd, 2003. I assume it's still July 23rd there for you. You're not at midnight yet.
2013.
2013, yes, sorry. Did I say 2003?
yeah. No, it's 6 p.m. Okay.
There's so much information that we have here. The customer usually finds there's a lot of really good stuff here.
And the difference between Sandpiper appliance and the others is it's not invasive, so it sits there and watches what happens. It does not require agents, so it's agentless. And the third thing, it's a service, so they can, as long as they have done what they need with it, they can return the appliance back. So the investment is I mean, it's quite a logical investment. You don't have to buy and pay all these hundreds of thousands and not use it.
Exactly.
Okay.
Yeah, you pay for what you use. Now, obviously, we have a setup fee. You know, when we go and get this thing running initially, we have a setup fee.
Sure.
And then the customer can use it for 2 months, 3 months, 6 months, 1 year, 3 years. Like I said, at Royal Caribbean, per year, we're getting a subscription of close to $1 million.
Yeah, but the billing, if the customer needs it for a couple of months, we can cover that.
Absolutely.
Very good.
In fact, let me show you here real quickly. What we have right now is a hospital that we're installing this at.
Okay.
So let me show you what we did here for this hospital.
A hospital. So you've done a cruise company, you've done hospitals, you've done banks, different kind of workloads.
Exactly. We've done so many different kinds of projects. It really, to us, doesn't matter whether they're a hospital or a bank or anything. I mean, workloads are workloads, right?
Yeah, I understand. But sometimes the customer will say, yeah, but we're a hospital, and you're giving me an example about a manufacturing customer. So in some cases, you know, I get this kind of feedback. So I'm happy that you've done a diversity of workloads.
Yeah, every one of our customers wants it to be customized to them in some manner. So the hospital wanted us to customize it to the hospital, for example. But yeah, for banks, now this is a manufacturing company.
Okay.
What we've done here is, for this particular manufacturing company, we've given them a proposal. Let me get down here, sorry.
Sure.
This particular proposal is very, very affordable.
Okay.
What they're looking for is a 6-week subscription.
Okay.
This is our fee for a 6-week subscription.
If
If they want to upgrade the subscription to a 2-month subscription, they would have to pay this additional fee.
Okay.
Or they could start with a 2-month subscription for this number,
Yeah.
and they could extend to a 3-month.
Fantastic. Quite reasonable.
Or they can go 3 months, and that would end up being the least costly solution.
Yeah.
So they can get it for a very short amount of time if they like.
Yeah.
Or we can go out to 1 year. Let me show you this one.
Mm-hmm.
Hang on just a moment.
Sure.
So this was the subscription services
Yeah.
for Royal Caribbean. Here's the signed contract.
Mm-hmm.
I'll zoom out here a little bit.
Sure.
So here's the signed contract for Royal Caribbean. And this is for the Sandpiper Interrelationship Services, subscription services, right here.
Mm-hmm.
Let me go down to the numbers. Notice it's signed.
Mm-hmm. It's not displayed yet.
And right here, this might be kind of hard to read, but right here, do you see the price?
Yeah. I cannot see
It might be a little hard for you to read.
Yeah, yeah. 900 something?
Yes.
Yeah, yeah.
That's for 1 year.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. It means they get a lot of value, no? I mean, the investment is
They
way
really
less
do.
than the value they want.
Yeah, if IBM came in and installed TADM to do the same thing, it would have cost them more than $3 million a year.
Definitely, and they would have been stuck with the software license that they have to pay a renewal on, you know, and all these things.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So what we've done here in this case is we're giving them quite a few number of appliances. What we have is we have 15 appliances running in Florida,
Yeah.
and we have 15 appliances running in Virginia.
Okay.
So this is for 30 appliances.
Okay.
So the 30 appliances, when you multiply it out, this is actually cheaper than this contract I showed you for the hospital, because the hospital at those numbers,
Yeah.
if I go back up to the same scoping, is only for half of that.
Okay.
And it's only for, this is per month.
Okay.
So if you multiply that out per month or per quarter, this is actually more expensive
Yeah.
than what we did for Royal Caribbean.
Yes, I know.
So there's a lot of money in this.
Yeah, definitely, definitely, and a lot of value also to the customer. No, I have a very good feeling about it. I think the market in the Middle East needs it, and I'm happy that we've done this, and I recorded it because I can share it with Amir Malas, you know. I can share
Yes.
it even with Ahmed Kusi, and we take it from there.
Absolutely. And I can do other sessions for you guys, or Mark can do other sessions for you guys. We can do anything to support you as needed.
Fantastic. Thank you very, very much. Let me find out if we're still recording, and I hope so. 28 minutes. Fantastic. The only problem is the audio was low. I hope we recorded audio. Oh my God, that would be really a disaster if it was not recorded. But anyways,
Well, again,
I can do.
if you like, we can do this again anytime, though, if you
Okay.
want, Ashraf,
Yeah.
do a new recording.
Okay, very good. So thanks,
Okay.
thanks a lot, Brad. Thank you very much. I have to go now because we're
Very
about
good.
to have our iftar, if you remember.
Yes, I do remember Iftar.
Okay, okay.
Thank
take
you,
care.
Ashraf.
Thanks to you. Thank you very much, my friend.
Bye-bye.
Okay, bye-bye.